I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It is Tenacious Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. Our very special guest, a show that I am particularly excited about on this first day of July, but also the final day of our celebration of African American Music History Month, is none other than Kerry Gordy, affectionately known as KG. KG was born in Detroit, Michigan, the same year that his father, Berry Gordy, started Motown Records. He grew up all around all of the major stars, such as Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson, Marvin Gaye, and Michael Jackson. He started in the mailroom at Motown and worked in every division from A&R to publishing and marketing to business affairs. While at Motown, he wrote and produced songs for The Temptations, The Four Tops, Billy Preston. The first hit he had as an executive with Motown was with his brother Rockwell's "Somebody's Watching Me and Ain't Get No Privacy." Anyway, maybe I'll be discovered today. KG was also the leader of the 1980s teen idol band Apollo. KG mentored talented underprivileged kid at the Duke Ellington School of the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. He prides himself as being one degree of separation from anyone important in the music industry and has recently been featured in Forbes magazine, where he shares his unique and insightful perspective on brand marketing. KG, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
What's happening, my brother? I love you.
Man, I am so excited about you being here today, not only because of the upcoming projects that you stand behind, that you've executively produced, that you've directed, that you are in charge of, that you creatively are bringing forward, but because of your understanding of the stories behind the stories, the history of the soundtracks of our lives. I'm 60 years old, are so vested in what happened in the basement of your home, the people that you came into contact with. And I can't begin to tell you enough that when the music presents itself, when it comes on the music, when it shows up in streams, and when it shows up in various playlists, it 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 captures the moments in our lives where we lived, where we expressed ourselves, the emotions, the feelings, the people we loved, the people we lost. KG, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I'm so proud and happy to be here because of obviously you guys have been a part of our lives for the whole run, right? And so tangentially we've been together as brothers the whole time. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
KG, we have about 2 minutes before we come forward, and we're going to after the break talk about some of the upcoming projects and why they are so important and so relevant. But in 2 minutes, let me ask you a difficult question. Emerging from the enormous light that has been cast on your life by your father, share with us some of those challenges. We have about 2 minutes.
First of all, I'm an entrepreneur. I'll get right down to the bottom line. I'm an entrepreneur, and just like any other entrepreneur, when I do projects, I'm looking for money
Mhm.
to do those projects. And every investor has this thing, and they say, "Wait a minute, why are you coming to me? Your father has more money than we do, so why don't you just get the money from your father?" Okay,
Mm,
so that's the first thing. Obviously, I don't work with my father anymore,
mhm,
and I like it better that way because I don't like being one of the people that are on his payroll because
mm,
he treats you different if you're on his payroll as opposed to not being in his pocket or on his payroll.
mm.
Uh, so what happens is is that it's really funny. One guy I went to, very important guy in the business. He once said to me after he finished the meeting with me, he said, "Oh my gosh, you're great, and all of this time I thought you were the idiot son of a lucky mogul."
Kerry, I know we're going to come forward in just a minute, but in 1995, when I decided to run for Congress, I mean, I finally left my dad's payroll. And I know
Mhm.
exactly what you're saying. I wanted to establish what I needed to do to represent people, and it was different than dad.
Yep.
And I spend my entire life trying to find a way to distinguish myself, not to leave my dad, but to distinguish myself because I too have a contribution to make. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, our very special guest in this hour is none other than Kerry Gordy. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest in this hour is the incomparable Carrie Gordy. Carrie, welcome forward to our show.
I'm so happy to be here.
Carrie, we are, as you know, live on KBLA, and Tavis all week has been focusing on the history of Black music.
Yep.
It's been an amazing month of music artists every day that Tavis highlighted. And I can't think of a better way, beginning on July 1st, to really put a cap on an extraordinary month here at KBLA by having you on as our very special guest. You are working on an amazing project.
Yeah.
A cultural recovery mission, if you will. Share with us why Ed Sullivan.
Okay, well, it's really interesting. When Sasha Jenkins came to me, now Sasha's the director, when he came to me and said, KG, I would love for you to help with this Ed Sullivan project. And Margot Special, who is Ed Sullivan's granddaughter, wanted to have me involved, and it was really interesting. We actually went to the same high school, Beverly Hills High, together. But anyway, when they came to me, I I was very intrigued because they wanted to do the Ed Sullivan thing, which I thought was great. My only thing is I wanted to make sure that if we did it, it was from a urban or Black perspective. And the reason for it being from a Black perspective is because I remember when I was a kid, I would rush home on Sunday nights to make sure that I was able to see Ed Sullivan, because Ed Sullivan was the only place that we got to see people that looked like us with humility and with honor and with respect. Because when Ed Sullivan put them on his television show, he treated them with respect. And so we got to first see the Jackson 5 and Diana Ross. I mean, from my generation, but even before my generation, your father and those people, my father got to see Satchmo and Sammy Davis Jr. and Cap Calloway and all of those people that were before us. Ed Sullivan invited Black people to a 30 to 50 million audience every week. And that was someplace that Black people got to see that, wait a minute, we can aspire to be more than what we were seeing on TV, which were maids and butlers and yes, sir, boss, and all of that kind of stuff, right? So I thought that I would like to do it. And of course, Sasha is the brainchild behind all of this stuff, right? I would like to do it from the perspective of what it really meant to the urban community, what it meant to the Black community to actually understand everything that Ed Sullivan had to go through, the Ku Klux Klan and losing sponsorships and everything, because he would touch a Black hand, or because he would put his arm around Joe Louis or shake his hand. It was unbelievable. And people need to know the story. Our children need to know this story. And the general population in general needs to know this story of the champion that Ed Sullivan was, and the angel.
That's in this moment, I'm thinking about just how important Sullivan's legacy truly is, because I remember seeing a video one time of Frankie Lyman performing before an all-white audience of young women, and they didn't quite know how to clap. They didn't quite know how to react. They had heard Frankie Lyman's voice, but they did not know that he was African American, and they were shocked when he came out on stage and he was moving. But the idea that Ed Sullivan would touch an African American artist's hand, have a conversation with them, treat them with dignity, give them a hug.
That's right.
Build on that for us, because we're not just talking about a documentary that deals with music. We're talking about really the evolution of a culture and a statement that was made in our memories, in our minds, and our understandings also of how we overcame stereotypes.
Well, it was crazy. Because you have to understand, at this time in history, the racial divide was thick. It was very thick. There were places that Black people didn't go in the United States. Black people couldn't live in certain places in the United States. White people in general didn't even understand that Black people didn't have tails. I mean, it was really incredible, right? And everything that they had been fed was to undermine Black people. I mean, even the first movie that was shown in the White House, was about the Black guy raping the white girl and blah blah. Just
Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation, right? And so what happens is it was accepted that we were animals to a large portion of the United States. And when Ed Sullivan picked these people to be on his show against the network's best wishes, against the establishment's best wishes, against corporations' best interests, and actually had them on the show and then treated them like respectable people. And you got to see they weren't this y'all so boss kind of thing. They were intelligent people. They were articulate. They were clean cut. And they had to endure the ridiculous racism that was going on. And they had to smile and keep it in. They couldn't be militant about it because that's the thing that would have, gotten them ostracized.
And they were also our first ambassadors. There
Oh,
are ambassadors to an America that did not see us as human beings. And I keep referring to these ambassadors because ambassadors carry themselves in a certain way. Here's a quote from Margot Special. She says, Sunday's Best tells the story of a shared moment in American television when one of the unlikely hosts created space for groundbreaking performances that meant radically different things to different people. For Black audiences, it was about being seen.
that's
For
right.
white audiences, it was about seeing a new way. The film captures the complexity, that tension, and that cultural shift that unfolded one Sunday night at a time. My
That's right.
grandmother, my great grandmother, rushed home to see the Ed Sullivan Show.
That's amazing. That's
And
amazing.
Kerry Gordy's bringing it to us along with an amazing group of people who are behind bringing forward and resurrecting, if you will, the life of Ed Sullivan and just how important and critical it was to the civil rights movement, the human rights movement in the United States.
It was so critical and it was so important. And without Ed, I don't know if we would have ever broken that barrier. This is the first time that Black people or anybody got to see that we were not only were we humanized, but they got to see how ridiculously talented we really were.
And how ridiculous they looked, treating us like we weren't human beings and capable of sharing our cultural expressions with the world.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so much of it came from this dynamic. And Dr. King, my dad, Ralph Abernathy, so many other people get credit for the civil rights movement. But from the Green Book to the Chitlin Circuit, these artists endured humiliation. They
Yes.
endured denigration. And
Yes.
yet every night they came out, not with their jeans hanging down by their knees, not with a bunch of chains and rings and ostentatious language or foul language. They come out with the most pure sound. A Nat King Cole,
That's right.
Johnny Mathis,
That's right.
the Four Tops,
That's right.
the Temptations, Diana Ross and the Supremes,
That's right.
Sammy Davis Jr. They come out with Duke Ellington,
That's right.
Satchmo Armstrong.
That's
They
right.
come out as ambassadors of our race, and they are projecting themselves, carrying themselves in a way that says, we are here, we are Americans, and we are here to stay. I don't know if you saw the movie Sinners, Carrie.
No, I did not.
Carrie, there's an amazing scene, the Juke Joint, where our cultural expression all comes together. And I'll save that for another show that we do. But our cultural expression comes together not only in the present at that moment of the movie, but it also comes, it brings and draws in the cultural expressions from around the world, which is nothing short of amazing. Carrie, share with us some of the other projects you're working on.
Oh my gosh. I am let's call it the Robin Hood of the music side of the entertainment business. What I do is I terminate contracts and grants that people assigned away their rights early in their careers before they had the leverage to make the best deals for themselves. So I either get them paid commensurate to somewhat of what they deserve, or I get their copyrights back, where now they have the ability to make a reasonable deal for themselves, as opposed to those onerous contracts that they got into when they originally signed. So I've done some great deals for Norman Whitfield and Valerie Simpson and Smokey Robinson and even white artists like Todd Rundgren and Juice Newton. We're doing something with Helen Reddy right now. So it's something that I believe in. It's a calling, because I think that artists need to be respected for who they are. You know, I actually at one point I managed Rick James,
Mm,
right?
mm, mm, mm,
And at another point I actually ran Paisley Park, which was Prince's company.
mm.
So we kind of we were kind of the harbinger of artist advocacy as it related to, you know, what artists deserve. And if you recall, Prince went through this whole thing where he felt like he was a slave because he couldn't put out music when he wanted to put out music. He wanted to put out music when he finished it, and the company would say, wait a minute, it's not going to be an event if you keep putting out music all the time. He said, listen, I wrote it, I finished it, I want it out. Right.
Mm,
And so
mm.
when they wouldn't let him put it out, that's when he went through this whole slave thing and just said, you know what, man, I'm changing my name. I'm doing this, and I'm not Prince any longer. I'm, you know, the symbol, right? So anyway, I do that. I do that with my Kerry Gordy and Associates Inc. company.
Carrie,
And
that's amazing. That's amazing work. But I do have to ask this question. Why do we keep hearing this story? I mean, the artist who come out with the bang and they don't own their masters, they don't own their copyrights, and they spend a significant part of their careers when they seemingly are flickering trying to get their stuff back. I mean, at some point in time, it just seems to me that my career or anyone's career has to start with Kerry Gordy. So it's right at the outset. Why do we keep revisiting this history?
well, because it's the way that the music industry was set up in the beginning.
Mm,
And things keep changing as time goes on. For instance, to this day, can you believe, listen to this, to this day, this is today, okay, to
okay.
this day, when you hear Michael Jackson singing I Want You Back on the radio,
Mm,
right? um the writers of that song get paid, but the artist does not today. I mean, we're
wait a minute,
talking
wait a minute. I want you back. Ooh,
yeah,
ooh, baby, I want
that's
you
right.
back.
Or ABC, or I'll be
No.
there.
And you're telling me the Jacksons don't get paid for that?
Not one penny.
Oh wow.
Okay. I'm talking about today.
Wow.
So my point is that the way that the record business was set up in the beginning was unfair. And then a lot of laws trickled down from that. It's like when it's very interesting how copyright law goes. But the point is that when I saw the injustice in it all, I really I had a calling to see who I could help and what I could do to kind of change that to a certain point. And you know, and that's what we're doing. And by the way, it's not easy. It's not easy going to Warner Brothers or Sony or Universal and saying, hey, listen, you've had these copyrights for long enough, we want them back. Right.
Amazing. That's a godsend for everyone that comes into contact with you. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, more with Kerry Gordy.
say yes, yes, I love you. I say yes. Stop in the middle of my day to lift my voice and give you praise. Thank you for every breath I take. Stop and praise. Pray and wait patiently. You give me everything that I need. All I gotta do every day is stop and praise. I am truly amazed by you. Clouds and blue skies, flowers in every hue. If rain falls and birds fly, and fish swim the sea, why do I spend my time worrying about me? Stop in the middle of my day to lift my voice and give you praise. Thank you for every breath I take. Stop and praise. Pray and wait patiently. You give me everything that I need. All I gotta do every day is stop and praise. Walking by my side, busy trying to make sure everything goes right. So wrapped up in how I feel, I haven't sought your will, but it's time for me to stop and tell you how I feel. Stop in the middle of my day to lift my voice and give you praise.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, where my very special guest in this hour has been none other than the incomparable Carrie Gordy. Carrie, welcome forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I love being here.
Carrie, July 21st, Netflix, Sunday's Best, a documentary on Ed Sullivan and the divides that he sought to close in his life through his incomparable work. Share with us more.
Well, first of all, if you're going to get something on TV, the 800-pound gorilla in the room is Netflix. So the fact of the matter is we were very excited when Netflix decided to pick us up to actually debut us on the 21st of July, which is coming up pretty quick, right? And it's very important that our Black people know of this documentary and know to support it and to check it out, because it's really something that every Black person needs to know. This is a story that has been never told that I know of in the whole history of the world, and it's so important. It's so important. So important.
Ed Sullivan reigned as TV's kingmaker. Through his most significant legacy is largely unknown, a radical dedication to diversity and representation that would break open the conversation about race in America, featuring some of the best musical performances in history. This is the definitive story of busting TV's color barrier. The Ed Sullivan Show was the most watched program in America, where Ed Sullivan turned out coming acts like Elvis, the Beatles into cultural phenoms overnight. But above heralding new stars, his show sent an important, unspoken, radical message of integration in the midst of Jim Crow era segregation that went far beyond entertainment, challenging the nation to do the same. Sunday Best traces the rise of the greatest names in music through the barrier-breaking host that introduced them to the world, featuring some of the rarest, first-ever TV performances from artists like Stevie Wonder, The Supremes, James Brown, the Jackson 5, Nat King Cole, and more. Breaming with edge, energy, and exuberant soundtrack, Sunday Best sheds new light on one of the most transformative periods in television history and the show that changed the sound of America forever. July 21st, premiering on Netflix.
That's right.
Tune
And
into
I want,
Netflix on July 21st.
excuse me.
I said tune into Netflix on July 21st.
You got that right. July 21st is a big day for us. We want to have a big day that day. But the one thing that I want to be very clear on is that it's called Sunday Best. And the reason that is because Sullivan's name is not in the in the title of it, and I don't want people to miss it because they didn't see Sullivan's name in there. So it's kind of important. And for the new generation, it's like they need to know the history of how this all came about, because it would not be the same today had there not been an Ed Sullivan. And there was another thing. Ed felt like without the Black entertainers, his show would not have been a hit. He would have had a very hard time going about getting talent and doing everything. They were very helpful. Blacks were very helpful to the show.
I think also, and I have to confirm this, but I'm pretty sure this to be the case. Ed Sullivan is also a turning point, and I mean a favorable turning point in Black-Jewish relations. I mean, Ed Sullivan was treating African-American artists with dignity, and that really, really mattered. And he happened to be Jewish, but a wonderful person.
I think he was Irish.
I thought he was. I thought he was Jewish.
Yeah. No, he was Irish. He was an
Okay.
Irish.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But I know that there are others who also broke the color barriers, who may or may not have been of a different racial or theological persuasion. But when I think about, for example, Frank Sinatra insisting that the casinos let artists come in the front door,
That's right.
and others who were trying to insist that African Americans come in the back door, there are these turning points, these moments where people stood up for us.
Well, Ed lived in Harlem. Okay. And he got to see everything that was happening on 125th Street. And he got to see the incredible talent. But here's the thing. He was an Irish immigrant. I believe it was Irish. And the Irish were, when they came to the country, they were looked at as the underdog, and they were looked at as lazy and all of this kind of stuff. And he hated that stereotype. And when he saw that same stereotype being put on people of color, he did not go for it. So that was part of his internal feelings and thought processes that made him say, listen, I'm going to treat everybody, whether they're Black, whether they're Jewish, whether they're Irish, whether they're immigrant, whether they're Mexican, if they're talented, that is my criteria.
Well, definitely a turning point in Black-Irish relations.
Definitely.
Ed Sullivan, Sunday's Best is the name of the show. Ed Sullivan's name will not be mentioned in the title, but the extraordinary life, the work, the commitment, the dedication of Ed Sullivan is documented in this great show, premiering on Netflix on July 21st. That's Sunday's Best on July 21st. Carrie, any other projects that you're working on?
Oh, we're doing quite a few projects. We have a couple of I have an AI twin that I've put together that is amazing, and we will give students the ability to ask any question as it relates to the music side of the entertainment business.
Wow.
And be able to get the correct answer from my perspective of everything that I've seen. And, I've had the opportunity I've had a unique opportunity. I have to tell you, my life has been amazing, almost an embarrassment of riches. It's been amazing. I've had a chance to obviously befriend Michael Jackson and James Brown and Aretha Franklin. people that weren't even at Motown, and of course, produced the Temptations and the Four Tops, and managed Rick James, and run Prince's company, and run the urban division of Warner Brothers. I mean, my life has been so incredibly fortunate, and the universe, God has totally blessed my life from the beginning. I came home from the hospital to that house that everybody knows is Hitsville in Detroit. My mother found it as a photography studio, and she said this would be a great place. So we had our apartment was at the top of the top floor. The middle floor was the offices, and the basement were the studios. So I got to see everybody come in nothing, as nothing, as nobody, and walk out 5-10 years later as the biggest stars in the world. So the conveyor belt that my father put in, with the you're starting with the A&R, going through the marketing, through the finance, through the business affairs, through the sales, distribution, and collections. He put that foundation together for everybody. So what they had to do was focus on their talent. So I have to say, I've had a unique perspective, and it took me all the way into where I'm doing these movies, these documentaries. I did the Biz Markie documentary last year, and the year before that, I did the Rick James documentary. And both of them I've done with Sasha Jenkins, who is the director of the Ed Sullivan doc. And of course, this guy is just he was just so amazing. And unfortunately, literally 2 weeks ago, he passed. He passed before even having a chance to see what the outcome of what's going to happen through Netflix with his amazing Ed Sullivan documentary.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, more with Kerry Gordy. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest in this hour has been none other than Carrie Gordy, whose documentary Sunday Best premieres on Netflix on July 21st. We're going to tune in heavily. We'll be promoting that from now until July 21st. Sunday Best. We're going to be looking at the rise of the greatest names in music through the barrier-breaking host that introduced them to the world, featuring some of the rarest first ever TV performances of artists like Stevie Wonder, The Supremes, James Brown, the Jackson 5, Nat King Cole, and many, many more. Carrie, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Happy to be here.
Carrie, let me tell you something. As I think about the July 4ths, and I've lived through about 60 of them,
Right.
60 years old, right? So much of the Ed Sullivan documentary and the music that it covers was the soundtrack of our lives. I mean, there's a new
Yes.
soundtrack for my children, but this is the soundtrack of our lives that you have been entrusted with. What does that feel like?
Well, first of all, I feel absolutely privileged. It's really funny. I happen to feel like, Jesse, I feel like me and you literally lived in the best time in the world history to live.
Mm,
We started, where it was, there was segregation and the whole thing, and the world was, a little crazier, coming out of World War II and all of this kind of stuff. But we actually lived in what I think was a very peaceful time, and Black people started to get respect during the time that we were living, and we got to see, the Oprahs and the Bill Cosbys and people who actually uplifted the Black consciousness of America and the world. And then we got to see the Temptations and the Jackson 5 and Earth, Wind and Fire, and just be able to be the biggest stars in the world, right? And
mm,
so I love where we're at and what I've been entrusted to do with this, with this music. It's very important for the young people to know where it came from. Also, I also wanted to mention that I have a play here in Los Angeles that's been selling out crazy at the Kirk Douglas Theater called 44. And it's
mm.
the story of Obama's administration told by Joe Biden's warped sense of what he remembers it as to be. So people think that it was that it was his wife that was in love with him, but it was actually Joe that was in love with Barack.
Tell us more about the play. So you're saying that 44 is at the Douglas Theater in Los
Oh,
Angeles.
no, it's sold out, and it actually, out of the 21 years of the whole Kirk Douglas Theater, it's the #1 grossing show that's ever been there. It's going to be in Chicago soon. And I'll give you, when next time I come on, I'll give you more. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that we went off talking about what's going on the 21st
On
of
Netflix,
on Netflix
Sunday
with
Best.
Best, and I just wanted to speak on how important this project is. And I wanted to also give it up to Sasha Jenkins, who poured his life into this. And this is an homage to him and to he and his legacy.
Carrie, you've obviously seen the documentary and the film
Yes.
in ways that Sasha obviously didn't. What are your expectations, and what do you think its lasting legacy and impact will be? We have about 4 minutes. What will be the impact of this film in the contemporary dialogue where we see so much rapid change that almost mocks our culture?
Well, I don't know. I think that if the young people get an appreciation
Mm,
for where it came from, I think that will help with regard to how they think about the future, even the songs and the movies and the and things that they come up with. I think will be much more helpful to society. I mean, it's very important that they know where we came from, because I mean, they don't know what your father went through with the civil rights movement. You know, they don't know the stuff that my father, Barry Gordy, and Al Bell did to make sure that Push was funded, that Martin Luther King was funded. They don't know what these black entrepreneurs had to go through. They just think that we're here because we're here. We're here because of people like Ed Sullivan that actually said, you know what? I am going to give these people a chance. And I don't care that sponsors are dropping me. I don't care that the Ku Klux Klan is after me. I don't care that the network is threatening to pull my show. I don't care about that. This is what it needs to be. And I'm sticking with it because it's a principle. And that is what they really need to know. And they need to see the juxtaposition as to how it is today as to how it was 50, 60, 70 years ago, because
mm,
it was truly different.
mm, mm. I find that I mean, I find that moving because so much of what we talk about here on our show is history and the importance of the history. And when I think about the various phases of our history, there is there is a soundtrack to our lives. And that music does matter because it reminds us of where we were. It's the therapy of how we as African Americans dealt with some of the challenges of our existential existence within the United States, and how we celebrated, how we spent time together, how we danced, how we sang, what came across at that time, AM and FM radio, the little boxes that we had, little headphones that we wore. It was the buy that tied us all together, the music of our lives. And then there are these heroes who broke through to deliver to us the messages and the
Absolutely.
sound. And I am confident that Sunday Best is heading for major international acclaim. But Netflix on July 21st is where we have to do our part. We
That's
have
right.
to tune in to Netflix and make this one of the grandest entrees of a Netflix documentary in the history of Netflix documentaries. To learn more about ourselves, to learn more about our people, to learn more about everything that we have accomplished in song. Curie Gordy, thank you for being on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
And Delirio Films, Mass Appeal, Sofa, Sasha Jenkins, Raphael Marmar, and Margot Special, who is Ed Sullivan's granddaughter, will love you. The
We can't
15th,
wait.
I mean the 21st of
Of
July.
July. Carrie, thank you very much for being on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I love being here, and I can't wait to come back on the 18th.
Our show is yours. Look forward to it.
Okay, I
You're
will
listening to you're listening to Tenacious Tuesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, attorney Barbara Arnwine is going to help us dissect that big, beautiful bill on Capitol Hill. What's in it, what's out of it, and the ramifications for millions of people around the United States as these programs are cut. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, we want to thank once again Carrie Gordy for joining us in the first hour.
stop and praise. Pray and wait patiently. You give me everything that I need. All I gotta do every day is stop and praise. Sometimes I'm so faithless, walking by my side, busy trying to make sure everything goes right. So wrapped up in how I feel, I haven't sought your will. But it's time for me to stop and tell you how I feel. Stop in the middle of my day to lift my voice and give you praise. Every breath I take, stop and praise. Pray and wait.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And it is Tenacious Tuesdays on the grind with attorney Barbara Arnwine. Barbara Arnwine is the president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition, internationally renowned for contributions on critical justice issues, including the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1991, the 2006 reauthorization and provisions of the Voting Rights Act. Currently, she also serves as co-chair and facilitator of the National Commission for Voter Justice, the Millennial Vote Matters convenings, and the Voting Rights Alliance. She was the head of the Lawyers Committee for the Civil Rights under Law from February 1989 to 2015 and holds the honorific title of President Emeritus. Barbara Arnwine, welcome forward to Tenacious Tuesdays.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Barbara, we've got an amazing hour planned as we rely largely upon you to help us dissect this big, beautiful bill and what its consequences are. Now, we have about 5 minutes left in this segment. Of course, our larger segment is on the other side. But Barbara, what is it that's in this bill and why should we be of grave concern?
We should really be worried for a number of different kinds of people. If you are on Medicaid, if you are in a rural community where you have a rural hospital, you should be very concerned. This bill is going to destroy the ability of people to receive medical benefits. And when I say people, I'm talking about as much as possibly 14 million people.
Wow.
So if you are on Medicaid, you have to be very concerned. This bill is riddled throughout it with work requirements for any kind of public assistance, which is, we know they tried this before, remember, and it failed. There's reasons why people don't work. There's a reason why you can't have 100% employment in this society that has nothing to do with people trying to, quote, cheat the system or anything else. There's also really ugly cuts to SNAP, to food security. So if you're worried about families having the money to buy groceries, to provide for their families, this bill is absolutely atrocious. It is an evil bill that is making these cuts, but at the same time giving trillions of dollars in permanent tax cuts to the rich. Folks, there's something really wrong in the United States. It stinks. I call this the big, ugly, ridiculously anti-people bill. It is absolutely against the interests of the American people.
We have about 4 minutes. I want to touch upon this for Medicaid recipients. It is nearly impossible to get a cardiac surgery in the United States if you're indigent and it's not subsidized by Medicaid.
That's right.
It's impossible if you have gangrene in your toes or some other ailment that requires an amputation to get that amputation without Medicaid, because you'll find yourself in a surgical suite with one physician, maybe two surgeons, even more assistance. That is a very, very expensive procedure. It is impossible to be indigent and to have an organ transplant without Medicaid reimbursement to the hospital or to the facility that provides the transplant. Critical care units for gunshot wounds for the indigent require reimbursements from Medicaid in order for the hospital staff to provide those critical, necessary, including but not limited to ambulatory services. And so when Barbara Arnwine says that this so-called big, beautiful bill
It ain't.
devastates poor people at the level of their own personal care in the event of an emergency or the natural course of a disease that any person might have or some ailment, that it is so extraordinary, we can't even possibly comprehend what these cuts in Medicaid truly mean for 14 million people across our country. Barbara?
Well, it's really bad. The other thing that you got to remember is the high percentage of Americans who use Medicaid for pregnancy, to deliver a baby. I mean, it is huge. It's not about 10%, 20%, 30%. It's more than 40% of all birth deliveries are done through Medicaid help. So what you're going to do about people trying to just have children and giving birth? And let's be very clear about this. Black maternal health, Black maternal mortality is already at epidemic proportions. Who do you think this is going to hurt? It's going to do major damage to Black women. Hear me, folks. They talking about they want people to have babies. This is all about that white replacement theory. They don't want Black women to have babies. They don't want Latino women to have babies, Native American women to have babies. They're talking about white women. And when they are making these Medicaid cuts, that's going to hurt are the actual survival, the actual not just health, but the actual ability to be alive for Black women who are trying to have a child. This is absolutely serious. We need to be paying attention to it. And I think, people really got to understand that already in rural America, people are dying because they can't get to hospitals. This is going to eliminate more rural hospitals, make it very difficult for people to get service. But one thing I've been saying, Reverend Jesse Jackson Jr., I've been saying it from day one, they want people to die. And that's what we keep forgetting. This is not accidental. This is not something that's an unforeseen consequence. They want people to die in our society. They want to reduce this population.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to Barbara Arnwine. She's been sharing us with where the money was. And when we come forward, we're going to talk about where the money is going. The tax.
Yes.
Jackson Jr., when we come forward, you're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, Tenacious Tuesdays with Barbara Arnwine. When we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to Tenacious Tuesdays with Barbara Arnwine. We are on the grind with Barbara Arnwine. Barbara, I'm trying to figure out where this money is going. I mean, that's a rhetorical question. Why does Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, or Mark Zuckerberg need any more money? And why is it coming at the expense of poor people's basic health benefits?
Well, we saw some of that, right? I mean, right now, everybody knows as we're having this show that there's a big feud going on, quote, a big feud going on between Musk and Trump, where Musk is once again saying you're blowing the debt ceiling out of, proportion with all these tax, cuts and with all of these, well, they actually are mad. I mean, he's not our friend on this because he actually would like to see Medicaid and everything else cut more than what they've done. But what he is saying is that he wants to make sure that he's worried that this bill, didn't actually cut more programs. But they all are united in wanting more tax cuts for the rich. And so that's where the real problem is in this bill.
Barbara, let me give you a chance to get a glass of water. I just want to say that while Barbara comes forward in a moment, it should be striking to everyone within the sound of my voice that the government would call a bill that does not include all Americans something big and beautiful. You have to see this as a marketing campaign. You have to see this as Donald Trump, who titled the bill, the Big Beautiful Bill, as a master salesman to have people voting against and supporting against their own interests. So when you see someone with a MAGA hat on who doesn't realize they've just lost Medicaid, or that their Medicare has been slashed, or that their benefits or the Social Security system that they paid into are profoundly compromised by fewer and fewer people working and paying into the Social Security system. When you think about the advent of artificial intelligence and its impact on replacing people within the workforce, we have to ask ourselves the question whether or not on this July 4th, government of, for, and by the people is perishing from the face of the earth. This is not government of, for, and by an elite few. It is not government of, for, and by billionaires, an elite few. It's not government of, for, and by robots or artificial intelligence, non-citizens, non-persons, and non-human beings. One of the ways in which the United States was able to work its way out of the Great Depression was the Works Progress Administration. The government of the United States found a way to put Americans to work cleaning, rebuilding, strengthening, based upon their education levels, the entire society. They found jobs that needed manual labor, that needed to be accomplished by the American people, so that these men and women could work with dignity and take food home, health care home, some basic level of subsistence home to their families. And basically, we're looking now at the complete reversal of the idea that there is a floor beneath which no American can fall. Barbara, your thoughts on how, against the trends of the last 60 or 70 years of American history, we are looking at a completely new, different direction and the reworking of the federal government itself against the people?
Well, thank you for that question, because one thing that my co-leader of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Daryl Jones, liked to say is that in the 1960s, they declared war on poverty. In the 2000, in this 21st century, This Congress is declaring war on poor people.
Mm.
So it's a total reversal of thought. One point I was going to make earlier before I had, my throat, acting up because, it's pollen, folks. But one thing that I wanted to point out is this obsession with the rich for not only the fact that people can line their pockets, but did you notice when that dispute between Trump and Musk, what was the biggest part of contention of that dispute? Musk saying, I'm going to primary people. I'm going to use my money to unelect people, to elect the people I want. And I'm going to use that money most immediately to oppose a favored candidate of Trump.
Mm.
And so this is people, this is the problem with our allowing money in elections. When you have, this dark money, you have all of these billionaires being able to buy politics, be able to buy politicians, buy elected officials. This is the problem with money in government. That's what you're seeing. When you watch this feud right now between Musk and Trump, it's over the richest man in the world saying, I'm going to, use my money to stop anybody who I don't want to be elected, and I'm going to dictate who will be elected. And Trump saying, well, wait a darn minute. You can't oppose my people. And guess what? If you do, what did he say on Truth Social, folks? Did you guys catch it? What did he say to Musk? He said, if you do, I will take away all of your federal
Benefits.
subsidies.
That's what he said.
He sure did. Folks, it always comes down to team money. Who's on team money? But team money sometimes can disagree as to who should be the beneficiary of the money. And right now, Musk is pissed off because he doesn't like the fact that this bill didn't hurt people enough. It's not like he's trying to save people and be a champion of the average man. He's mad because they didn't cut enough. And so what he's doing is saying, I'm going to punish all these people who voted in a way that I don't like. And Trump saying, no, this is my bill. What you mean? This is what I wanted. How dare you oppose my bill? So I think, we got to pay attention to this, because what's missing in this whole debate, what's missing throughout this entire consideration of this bill is what is in the best interest of the American people. Have you heard that talked about?
Not much at all. Barbara, let me ask you this question. Could we be looking at the closing not only of rural healthcare facilities, but also healthcare facilities in Black communities and poor communities, regardless of their color, Hispanic serving communities, poor white clinics in rural communities that service trailer parks and very rural areas? Could we be looking at the closing of these facilities?
Absolutely. And there have been there's been a trend line of closure of rural hospitals over the last, decades. People, you got to understand, and I keep saying this, if you haven't read the philosophy of Curtis Yarvin, who is the philosopher and guru for J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, and Steve Bannon, if you haven't read his philosophy, he honestly believes that a whole lot of people are genetically inferior and should not be walking this earth. And unlike Steve Bannon, who's a straight up white supremacist, these others are white supremacists, but they also believe that some white people are inferior. And that if you're poor, it's an indication of your inferiority, period, of any race. So people are missing that this bill is actually a reflection of that belief that certain people just don't deserve to be on this earth, that if you got to, pay to make sure that they can eat, if you got to pay to make sure that they can have health care. If you got to pay to sustain them after their workable years when they're no longer, quote, beneficial to society because they're too old. When you understand this theory of these people, the way they think, these tech bros out of Silicon Valley, when you understand it, then you realize what kind of danger we're in. Right now, people think, they just hate the immigrants. Right now, people think, they really do hate those black folks, but we're not going to talk about that. Right now, they think you can sweep all that under the rug. But what people don't understand is that everybody, every race is at jeopardy here. And until we get smart enough to breach that reality, to really understand it and to stop falling for the old okey doke, the historic okey doke of the identity of believing that white identity insulates you from danger and privileges you in any manner, then until we get there, then we can't unite the way we need to stop things like this big, ugly, destructive bill. It is critical. I mean, I just got to say that because people keep telling me, oh, Barbara, people are going to die. Don't they realize people are going to die? I said, yes, they totally know it. And they're committed to it. And that's what people don't want to understand. Uh-oh. That's thunder out there.
Is that thunder? Oh, wow.
Thunder out there. Thunder had to emphasize that point.
That's right. The bill doesn't do very much for the environment right through here either. So
no, so the thunder.
Let me ask you this question, Barbara. The legislation is also troubling in another area. When you think about women's health, when you think about maternal health, when you think about the context within which they're ramming this down the throat of the American people, there was some hope, however, and I think we saw that hope in the Mamdani victory in New York. Do you sense that there's a now energized coalition at the bottom that is now forming as a result of this legislation that could carry over to some gains in 2026?
Yes. I think people are, we're seeing that whole crew of people, and you and I talk to them every day, folks. Everybody on this show, everybody listening to this show has encountered these people who say, I didn't think it was going to hurt me. Right? I thought, and what I always say about in response to that is that you thought it was going to hurt somebody, but not you.
Isn't that something?
Something? I mean, that's the reality. Come on.
Wow.
They thought it was going to hurt somebody, but not them. But now that they realize that they're in the bull's eye, when they realize that they're part of the target, all of a sudden, they are now saying, "Oh, I wish I could change my vote." A whole lot of people, 19 million of you, who sat out and didn't vote, because you were registered Dem, but you didn't vote Dem, you didn't vote at all. You also, have to take responsibility for what is happening, because you thought this man wouldn't be so bad, right? You didn't like her. You thought there was issues with her. But you didn't think this man would be so bad. Well, now he's worse than your greatest nightmare. You know what we didn't mention at the top of the show is that this is an important anniversary, everybody. Did you realize what anniversary today is?
Is it yours?
People. Today is the anniversary of the Supreme Court's immunity decision that gave Trump immunity for any, quote, official acts that happened while in office. So, folks, today is the day that the Supreme Court laid the pathway to autocracy. Today is the day that the Supreme Court laid the pathway to all of this illegal, unconstitutional, bizarre, absolutely unjust behavior you were seeing from this administration. That's what today is.
Just 3 days.
What the anniversary is.
Just 3 days before the 4th of July,
Do you see it?
We are looking now at a day of infamy. Barbara, thank you for reminding us. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, more On the Grind with Barbara Arnwine.
Stop in the middle of my day to lift my voice and give you praise. Thank you for every breath I take. Stop and praise. Pray and wait patiently. You give me everything that I need. All I gotta do every day is stop and praise. I am truly amazed by you. Clouds and every breath I take. All I gotta do is patiently stop and try to give me what I need. Stop in the middle of my day to hear my voice and every breath I take. Thank you for this. All I got to patiently stop and try.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to Tenacious Tuesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, On the Grind with Barbara Arnwine, who is the president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition, internationally renowned for contributions on critical justice issues, including the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1991 and the 2006 reauthorization of provisions of the Voting Rights Act. Ms. Arnwine launched Igniting Change with Barbara Arnwine in March 2015 on Radio 1's WOL 1450 AM. The hour-long show, which airs on Tuesdays from 12 to 1 p.m. EST, provides provocative and empowering information and discussion designed to ignite change and inspire action in achieving racial justice, social justice, and equality. And on Tuesday afternoons, she is with me. Barbara, I'm looking forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. She is the busiest woman in radio.
Well, thank you for having me on. People have been writing me during this
Fantastic.
break about our show.
Oh, fantastic.
And they have
Barbara,
questions for us.
let me ask you.
Believe it or not.
You said they have questions for us?
Yes.
Oh, go right ahead.
One of the questions that I saw was they want to know, what can people do? They're, the people who know that they're on Medicaid, who are sitting there knowing that they depend on SNAP. They're saying, what can people do? How do we help them to make sure they don't suffer so badly? And I'm sure people writing, they have an interest in this.
I've gotten calls from people who are concerned about TANF, transitional assistance for needy families. I mean, this is so devastating. It's without a staff or without an office, it's impossible to answer every question. But Barbara, what can we do? What can we do?
I was just sitting here thinking about it, one thing I hope everybody is prepared to do. Now, this is the minimal thing you can do, is say, take your hand, go to whatever calendar you have, and mark your next opportunity to vote. For those of you in Virginia, those of you in New Jersey, you get to vote this November for your state legislators, because the states are going to have to decide what they can do in light of these cuts. Some of these cuts were because states wanted them. Some of these cuts are because your legislators wanted them. It's time for you to make sure that you note on your calendar that big old November 4th that you're going to vote, this year. That if you sat down and you didn't vote in 2024, it's okay. Vote now. If you voted, in a way now that you regret, vote now, because it's the start. Next year is the midterms. The midterms is when you can get rid of this Congress that thinks that its duty is to the rich and not to the people, because there's nothing good. You know what I was just reading while we were on break is that we got to understand the reason why we have this Medicaid cut problem is because they want to give tax cuts to Medicaid. Get ready, folks. Not recipients, but providers. Those are the big companies, y'all. The big health industry companies. That's who they're trying to benefit by giving them cuts. That's and who when you give cuts to providers, who do you hurt? You hurt the rural hospitals, because it's the taxes it's those shared taxes that help support them. So when you decide that your priority is not the hospitals, but your priority and the people, but your priority are the providers, that's where this whole thing comes from. So people, we got to be so clear that if they're not for us, then we can't be for them. You got to be clear every opportunity. You can raise your voice to your senator, to your congressperson. You got to tell them, do your job on behalf of the people. If you can't, you're out. You got to do that. I mean, you can't just be silent. You can't be acquiescent. You can't say, well, it's a done deal, it's all over. You got to fight and fight and fight and make sure people know that there are consequences for the way they voted. There were 3 GOP members, folks, who voted against this big, ugly A bill. And what they said, there was one, Rand Paul, who voted because he can't believe that this debt ceiling, that nobody's paying attention to it, and that they're willing to blow it up. Then you had Senator Tillis of North Carolina and Senator Collins of Maine. Did I get that right? But Senator Collins, who basically said these cuts will hurt my people. That these Medicaid cuts, I can't pretend that they will not do damage and cause people to die. They said that on the floor of the Senate. I'm not just making this stuff up. They said it. And even Lisa Murkowski originally said that she would oppose it for the same reason. Why did she end up voting for it, folks? Why? Why do you think she voted for it? Because she got an exemption for her state. And I was reading her after comments after the vote. She was clear. She said, I had to vote for what I thought was in the best interest of my state, the people in my state, but I hate what it's going to do to the rest of the people. Come on.
There's no profile in courage.
Did you hear that?
For that's awful.
Did you hear that? That she's admitting that she knows it's going to hurt other people.
Now, maybe a profile in courage for the Republican from Mr. Tillis from North Carolina. But he also announced, as a result of his opposition to the bill, that he no longer wanted to be in the United States Senate, that he fears retribution from Donald Trump and the MAGA forces. That's also the case, right?
Yes.
So Murkowski is that's just not a profile in courage.
It's horrible. It's a profile in greed and self-interest. And also, it's just like, one thing people, that we're taught is to be our brother's keepers. And what happens to the concept of citizenry? What happens to the concept of being there for each other? If in fact you're acting like you're in a zero-sum game, and that you got to steal for one to help the other, when that's not what the situation is. The reality is that you could just say no to this bill and stop the pain for everybody. But instead, you're willing to sell the other people in this country out so that you can say to your constituents, well, at least I protected you. Everybody in Alaska, hear me. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't allow her and others to get away with this. You got to make yourself heard. What does voting do to make a difference? If you have the right Congress, we got a Senate that's very close. We got a House that's very close. If you have the right Congress, none of this would ever have happened. The president, you can have a Congress that's a one party and a president of another party. But the problem right now is that in the American system, our constitutional system is based on checks and balances. Well, we have lost the balance of the Congress, because the Congress used to better than anybody.
It used to hold them accountable, kind of like I have to do right now as we go to this break. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. when we come forward more on the grind with Barbara Arnwine.
Okay.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. On this Tenacious Tuesday, our very special guest on the grind is Barbara Arnwine. Barbara, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Very happy to be here.
Barbara, let me close out this final segment of the show by getting some of your insights on the July 4th occasion. As you know, from July or August, if you will, of 1619, when 19 odd Africans arrived in Virginia, from that moment to July 4th, 1776, I count 156 July 4ths. Not that they had the same currency, because there was no Declaration of Independence until July 4th, 1776. But from that moment forward to the Emancipation Proclamation, I count 87 July 4ths where the nation was not living up to the true meaning of its creed. After all, African Americans were in slavery. And it would be 89 July 4ths, if we include Juneteenth in that African Americans remained in slavery, an even longer number, by about 6 months before the 13th Amendment is added to the Constitution of the United States. When you reflect upon where we are today, where the human liberty system is today, stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. I'm wondering what your reflection is on this July 4th when you think about the system of slavery, you think about the Civil War, you think about first Reconstruction, you think about the Redeemers at the end of first Reconstruction, you think about the Jim Crow era, and if we can ascribe a certain date to the beginning of second Reconstruction, Brown versus the Board of Education forward through the Civil Rights era, certainly your reflection has to see essentially what Frederick Douglass saw in 1852, something terribly hypocritical about what we're witnessing in Washington today. Barbara Arnwine.
Well, it's worse, right? I mean, one thing I always teach is that racism and fascism are fraternal twins. You can't have racism without a fascistic enforcement mechanism. Somebody's liberties have to be curtailed, which means everybody's liberties are ultimately curtailed. You can't have fascism without having an other that is so dangerous, so ugly, so really denigrated in society, that you feel that the fascism is worthwhile to keep them down, right? We are seeing the U.S. keeps playing around and around on the same game board. We're on the same train track, just playing around and around, because now, today, everybody thinks it's immigrants. Somehow immigrants are, causing all these problems. And people don't understand. Your enemy is sitting over there in the Congress. Your enemy is sitting over there in the White House. They are the people who don't want you to succeed. I mean, the fact that you never even hear people talking about the American dream anymore, I keep saying this on the show, is a reflection that they've given up, that they are willing to just take what they can get for me and mine and leave everybody else hurting. That's what this ugly bill does. I think that what we have to say on the 4th of July is that the tenets of our constitutional system, we the people, I always say it's not we the courts, not we the Congress, not we the president. It says we the people, in order to perform, to perfect, to
form a more perfect union.
A more perfect union, that we the people, that it is in us. And what I want to see is that on July 4th, I want people to say that what we are looking at right now is a perversion of the constitutional principles. That it's a perversion when it serves none of the people. Folks used to say, at least it serves the white people. No, it serves nobody. And that's what we always warned you would happen.
Mm.
That was my father always told me that this day would come. He always predicted it. So this is the denouement of what happens when you fail to understand that you got to protect all the people so that everybody can have rights. So in this moment, I hope people will rise on the 4th, that they will look at this system, they will look at this government, they will look at this executive, this judiciary, and they will say, we must have better. We deserve better. We're entitled to better. We're owed better. That's what was envisioned. That's why it says, that's why in the Declaration of Independence, it says that if people aren't happy with the government, they can rise up against it. Folks, we have to understand that this is a critical moment. These nutcases are talking about deporting American citizens. The president today said that he has not taken that off the table, that quote might be the next job, to start deporting American citizens. Folks, we are in a dangerous period, and it requires all of us to lift up our voices. I hope I will see you with us in the streets on July 17th as we turn out for the John Lewis Day of Action, which is in part an affirmation, but it's also a protest. And we want people to know that we will never, ever sleep on our rights. We will never, ever give up our constitutional rights. And we're going to fight like hell in these streets to get a better government and to let it be known that we will not live under an autocracy, a fascistic, racist government.
Barbara, I don't think it could be said better. And if there's anyone who has their boots on the ground, they got their fan with them.
Where's my fan at?
It's Barbara Arnwine on The Grind with Barbara Arnwine. Barbara, thank you very, very much for your contribution today. I'm so honored that you spend these Tuesdays with us with all of your tenacity. I just want to close on this note. My father often says that we have to turn to each other and not on each other.
Right.
Beyond race, beyond sex, beyond class, we should be one. He also used to refer to this kind of syndrome that's taking place in American politics as the Al Jolson syndrome. Al Jolson was a vaudevillian, carnival creature who would come on stage with blackface.
Right.
And people would laugh at Mr. Jolson as they threw things at him and made fun of Mr. Jolson. But when the show was over, Mr. Jolson had to go backstage and wash off his makeup, and there was a sad white man. And that's what's happening in our politics today. They blamed diversity, equity, inclusion. They blamed immigrants. They blamed Black history. They blamed African Americans. But when this big bad bill becomes part of the law, Al Jolson has to go backstage in the green room and he has to wash his face. And behind it are a lot of white folks on Medicare, Medicaid, transitional assistance for needy families. They're in the SNAP program, agricultural workers who receive welfare stamps and welfare checks. They are all behind the big Al Jolson illusion. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Until tomorrow.